With that, we are very happy to welcome Dr. Joseph Koski today. He's coming from the education team at ESRI. He's one of the outreach people, which is more easily said than done the way he handles this job, because he reaches out not only in person like today. Glad to have him in Salzburg after a long hiatus, by the way, but he reaches out to wider communities through video. I believe he's absolutely top of the list with number, quality, and message, with lots of videos. I'm sure he will point you to the channel. And otherwise, in other contexts, I guess we would call him a motivational speaker. And that's certainly what I draw from many of those communications and interactions. The title is out there. I understand you take a pretty wide tour d'horizon with regards to education programs, career development, trends where we are going, and trends we need to watch out to support our careers, or just to support our missions in a wider realm of society. With that, I'd like to hand it over to you, Joseph. Just introduce yourself, how you want to be understood, how you want to be known. And everyone, of course, is welcome to use the chat window to record any questions or comments anytime you have them. We certainly aim at leaving some time at the end to drill down into some of these questions. Plus, there is obviously the 4 p.m. slot in the afternoon. So with that, one last request. Any speaker is always happy if there is a little bit of an audience. I know that many of you are not in front of a camera, or maybe share the room with others where you don't want to share your background. But anyone who can share their cameras, it's just nicer to have some faces to speak to and not only gray boxes on the screen. So anyone who can and wants to activate your camera, please go ahead doing so. Yeah, with that, Joseph, over to you.
Well, many thanks, Dr. Strobel. It is a huge honor to be with you and these fine students and colleagues of yours. I want to encourage you today to think about 3 things. First of all, that you're forging new frontiers with geoinformatics. You're not just using the technology and applying it to solve problems. You're actually blazing a trail. You're forging new frontiers. You're blazing new ground. And you're creating the new era of geoinformatics. That's one of the reasons why I have great respect for this university, Dr. Strobel and his colleagues, and all of you students. You've chosen a wonderful university, but don't just get content using the existing set of tools and perspectives. Use this opportunity to forge new ground, and we'll talk about how you might do that. I also want to give you, as Dr. Strobel very kindly mentioned, some practical means by which you can build your career on, some career advice. And also have you thinking about 5 key trends that are bringing us to, or forces that are bringing us to a key moment we as the community have in the advancement of geography and geotechnologies. 5 key trends in geotechnologies or geoinformatics, and then 5 skills that, again, I think will be a practical way for you to sort of build on, not only today, but in the future. Okay, so those are our goals. One of the things that I want you to think about, I know it's kind of a deep thought for a Montag, a Monday morning, but what do you want to see in society, and how should those of you that are faculty in particular, or those of you that are students that are thinking about going into academia, how should we structure education to achieve these societal goals that we might have? I submit to you all that geotechnologies is absolutely essential for building a more equitable, resilient, and sustainable world. It really is. We love the technology, right? We know that it has the potential and has the proven track record of having achieved some significant advances in having cities being smarter, transportation networks being smarter, supply chain being smarter. But all of that being said, we absolutely need geotechnologies and spatial thinking to build this better world. Education will change. It has been changing for the last many centuries. It has always been keen, especially at the University of Salzburg and many other places that I support and work with. But how should we structure ourselves to be the most relevant possible for students' needs now, but also students in the future? In other words, where is the workplace going? Where is society going? And how should we then structure our programs so we're sort of future trending? We're building for the future, not just building on the past or present. So education is going to continue to evolve. Hybrid, face-to-face, online. It was changing in massive ways even before COVID. Certainly COVID hastened some of the changes. But geotechnologies has always been rapidly advancing. And indeed, in my role at ESRI, Environmental Systems Research Institute, I occasionally get people saying, Joseph, you need to slow down the ESRI toolkit. It's changing too rapidly. I can't keep up. We'll talk about, okay, how do you deal with the changes today? But the chief reason why these tools are rapidly advancing is because people ask for new tools to be built for hydrology or for public safety or for city planning or health or business or other disciplines. So the tools are going to continue to rapidly advance, and that feeds into how can you, student that you are, excellent student that you are, build your set of tools, but also the spatial perspective so that you can continue to move forward in your career. So geotechnologies will advance and education will advance. But really, when you keep thinking about geotechnologies as being absolutely essential for building this more resilient future. That all being said, oftentimes in my role, and I'll talk more about what that role is in a moment, people will send me their data on the map, on the web map or the web mapping application, the dashboard, the story map. They'll say, hey, Joseph, I got my data on the map. And I'll say, well, that's great. Wunderbar, excellent. And? Why do I say and? Because the goal is not just to map your data, right? The geotechnologies, remote sensing, geographic information systems, GNSS, web mapping, those are just tools to achieve a higher, more noble goal. The higher, more noble goal is, again, building this more resilient, happier, healthier, smarter, wiser world. To understand something in a deeper, richer way, whether it's hazards or health or business or population change or ecoregions. That's the goal, right? That's why I say two things. First of all, go beyond the map. Don't just stop at getting your data in the map with all your layers aligned and your map projection set and your analysis done, and that's it. Go beyond the map. The geotechnologies are a means to a greater goal. The greater goal is to understand something better, deeper, and also to take action on the urban greenway or the city community gardens or the landslides that you're examining, etc., right? That is the goal. And the number two thing I wanted to just make sure that you take away from this presentation is this is the most important tool right here. Your brain, your spatially enabled, spatial thinking brain. That's the most important tool. So nurture that tool, be a lifelong learner. We'll talk about that today. But the tools will evolve. Don't get too locked into the tools. Teaching or learning ArcGIS Pro 2.9 or whatever it is you're using. Those are just means to a greater goal. This is the most important tool of all, okay? So I hope those messages resonate. So anyway, it's great to be here. Buenos dias, guten tag, wie geht's, dzień dobry, ni hao, duhrud. It's wonderful to have this international community all united around mapping and geoinformatics. I like to think of maps as uniting people around common data sets and common goals. It's sort of like music in some ways, although we all have our own different tastes in music. But the analyzing the Earth through mapping technologies is a rather uniting kind of thing. And I think the University of Salzburg is a great example of, you've got this international community all together forming maybe lifelong professional associations and perhaps, hopefully, even some lifelong friendships in common bond and common goal of understanding and making a better world. Now, I won't bore you with my own background and my own resources, but as Dr. Strobel promised, I do have some resources that I hope will be helpful going forward. If you want a daily dose of geo, STEM, education, geography, GIS, I do have a Twitter channel there, feed. I also have 5,000 videos on this Our Earth channel, okay, this Our Earth channel. And I'm rather passionate about this, as I hope it shows in these videos, okay? That is all about, again, biotechnology, our latest series about teaching about water using GIS. So that's the Our Earth channel. Also, I would encourage you as follows. That it might be helpful to think about one tool, and that is, I've got a traditional CV, right? You've got a CV or a resume. And, you know, like yours, mine has my career goal, educational background, articles I've written, work experience, and all that kind of stuff, right? It's this kind of thing. And I still have that. I still maintain it. I intend to maintain it in the future. However, I think one of the takeaways of this presentation is for you to consider creating a story map of your CV. There's several reasons why I recommend doing that. First of all, you're using the story maps tools. You're using web mapping applications. You can put some rather nerdy photographs of yourself. Normalize your choropleth. What does that mean? Fascinating. But you could put your goals, what your mission is in your educational journey and in your career journey. I also highly encourage you. Here is my homeland, Colorado, USA. My right hand is pointing at Denver, Colorado, which is my home right now, and I love big maps. I'm lying on a big map there, as you can see. Anyway, the point is, make a story map of your resume or CV, and you can include lots of different things, but I highly encourage you to do the following. Make sure that in your story map you have at least one, right? At least one interactive map from ArcGIS Online, for example. Why? Because I want you to think about using that CV story map or that resume story map for your future employer to look at. So there's several reasons why I think this is a good idea. This is my all-time favorite globe. This is the World's Fair globe from 1964 in New York City. It is the world's heaviest globe. It's made out of steel. But the point is, why do this? A, it gets you in touch with the story maps tools. Every quarter or every semester that you update this, you're using some new story maps tools. Great. So it gives you in practice. Number two, it's easy and it's fun. It's your own story, so it's all in your head. You don't have to do any external research, right? It's your own story that you're telling. And number three, and perhaps most importantly, not everyone does this. So I think it has the potential to move your resume, your application for a position or a job to the top of the stack, either paper stack or a virtual stack. Because again, it's fairly rare. And if an employer sees, oh, this is a web map and that person knows something about applying geotechnologies, and therefore I'm going to look at this. Again, I still have my paper, my digital traditional resume, but I also have this as a story map. Okay, so fascinating. I highly encourage you to do that. Now, another thing that I wanted to mention here is my own background. Not to bore you to tears. Ooh, no, not to put you to sleep today. However, I want you to think about two things as I'm sharing ever so briefly this journey of mine. Number one, that you can be of service to society in different sectors of society with spatial thinking and geotechnologies. In my case, it's in 4 sectors of society. Nonprofits, so I was president of the National Council for Geographic Education. I love geography education. I serve in different universities because I love instructing. I love interacting with students, finding out what their challenges are, listening to them, and so on. I've worked in government agencies, as you can see, science agencies, statistics agencies, mapping agencies. And also the fourth sector, I'm in private industry. I'm in ESRI, Environmental Systems Research Institute. I serve, as Dr. Strobel mentioned, on their education team, supporting schools, technical colleges, universities, libraries, museums. Anywhere there's education happening, my team and I support curriculum, campus facilities management, for example, mapping all the fiber optic cable and the water lines on campus, making the campus safer and more energy efficient, etc. But I'm mostly on the instructional side, advising faculty on program development, courses, what tools to include, what methods to use, etc. And getting information from them. I do a lot of listening as well, learn a lot from them. So 4 different sectors of society. So I want to encourage you in one way to think about, yes, you can be of service to different areas of society. And number 2, I hope this is another encouraging part of me sharing my own story, and that is you are not stuck or locked in to the same organization for the rest of your career. So as you can see, I have moved around. And I hope that's an encouraging word for you all that you can do the same thing, okay, with geotechnologies and spatial thinking. I keep pointing to this head because, right, we are wanting to think about the tools are enabling devices. They're very useful, but be a lifelong learner, okay?